Meantime, though, what are you telling folks about with the other side of the negotiating table, countries that are in talks with the U.S. Now? And I think the White House is saying, look, give us your best deal or proposal with a little bit of time to go before that 90 days expires. Are they going to be dragging their feet, knowing that this is getting stuck in the courts now?
Yeah, no, I really don't think so, because I think now we know one thing, Martin. When this started on Liberation Day back at the beginning of April, I think there was a lot of folks, myself included, folks who were very familiar with how Donald Trump and his team works, who didn't know what the tariffs were for. Were the tariffs there for their own thing? Were we going to now move forward with a permanent tariff wall around the United States of America in an effort to, say, rebuild our textile and our footwear industry? Or were they there for negotiating leverage? I think that answer has been put to bed. I think these tariffs are there for leverage. And I think that sends a very strong message to everybody. Say, look, we're not doing this to sort of punish everybody. We're trying to figure out a way to get leverage where we don't have any right now. Give Donald Trump credit. He's one of the best I've ever seen at creating leverage where none exists. So the doors are open. The deals are there to be had. I suppose a foreign nation could sit back and wait and hope that the courts, deny Trump the rights, but he's going to figure out a way to do something one way or the other. So, no, I think generally speaking, the atmosphere should be one of, I don't think you have to be happy with what Trump has been doing, but I do think that the overall message here is we're here to make a deal.
Back to the Senate and what's underway there with a big, beautiful budget bill. There's a timeline. There's the so-called X date, right, by which some members would want to get this done. The president, we've seen him intervene personally in these negotiations. This was when it was going through the House, right? How's this vote going to go? And I'm really curious, right, with regards to the question of entitlements, how much or how much not they can or cannot be touched ahead of midterms.
Yeah, let's look at the date for a second. The July 4th date that your reporter Emily talked about in the run-up to this, that's an artificial date. It's obviously our nation's 250th birthday, so it's a big deal, and Trump would love to be able to have the PR splash of announcing it by then. That's not what's really driving the calendar. What's driving the calendar here is the date, what we call the X date, when it comes to the debt ceiling. Buried in this bill is a $4 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. We've been told from Treasury to expect that they actually completely run out of money sometime the middle of August, give or take. Congress traditionally goes on its August vacations the end of July. That's the date. They cannot leave town in the end of July without doing something on the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is part of the big, beautiful bill. It doesn't have to be. They could strip it out and handle it as a standalone, but my guess is they won't do that. So that's really what's driving the date here, is the debt ceiling and not that sort of PR date of July 4th. I don't think they'll make the July 4th date. I think that was a goal to begin with. Originally, they talked about doing it by Memorial Day. These are just made up dates. The hard and fast date is that the debt ceiling date, and I think that's the date to keep an eye on.
Mick, if memory serves, and correct me if I'm wrong, please do so. Back when you were head of OMB, right, you were right smack in the middle of one of these situations where the government does run out of money. What is that like, and the mechanics of it? What has to happen to keep things going?
Yeah, there's actually two critical dates. There's one where the Treasury says it's sort of out of money, and then they use what's called extraordinary measures and so forth to sort of use internal accounting to keep the cash flowing. And then there's the actual date where they have to issue debt, and they can't by law. Again, that's the hard stop. That's the date that we think now is in August 15th. After that date, the government would not default. I think that's critical. The question is, which payments would it prioritize? It will not have all of the money that it needs. Let's say the date is August 15th for sake of this discussion. It will not have all the money that it needs on that date to fill all of its statutory obligations. So the question that becomes, what comes first? And does the executive even have the authority to do that kind of privatization? We believe very strongly in the Trump administration that they do. There's many Democrats in town who believe that they don't. So it's an unknown, because it's an area that we've actually never functioned at least in modern times. So it's going to be the focus of a great deal of media discussion, going to be a focus of a great deal of market speculation. But again, the key thing is that they will see that August 15th date as a deadline in Washington, D.C., and Washington usually only responds to real and hard deadlines.